Breaking news. I think this is a vindication to Nnamdi Kanu because the bills to divide this country has just been arrived at the National Assembly, waiting for approval. You understand? Says Yoruba, Igbo, and other ethnic nationalities should be able to exit freely from Nigeria. Proposal before National Assembly says, because this is the only way forward, and this is the solution to Nigeria's problem. Because we're seeing the way some group of people, especially youth, has been marginalized, while some are claiming the ownership of this country. I say the country belongs to them. This is a country where we are not equal. But the name Nigeria bound us together, but we are not equal before the country. So let's return this country back to regional governments or restructure this country. That is the only way forward. This is amalgamation at that time. You don't understand. So let's return this country to regional government, parliamentary state. The ethnicity. I said it before. And now our leaders beginning to wake up, realize this is the only way forward, and this is the solution to Nigeria's problem. If we continue like this, there is no way we can reach a destination, and it cannot. There is no military. There is no amount of military. The money you invest in that military that will be able to solve Nigerian problem without division is not going to work, and it's not working. So let me allow you to listen to this, because we just wake up that day. Tinubu, the bill national to return the old national item. Yes, it did not even the National Assembly did not sit on that bill, deliberate on it before they pass it, they signed it into law. I think it was just 3 executive days or something like less than before they approve it, and Tinubu came and signed it. He said it was his priority to do so. This one will also be your priority to do so. Do it under your administration. Restructure this country and save yourself unnecessary stress. Listen to this. And please, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please now subscribe, hit the notification button now, so that you don't miss any update. You know now your boy run out for me. Please.
Just like I have a wife. Do I want to be married? Question number 1. So in Nigeria, do we want to be one? It's an assumption that we want to be. It's a terribly big and wrong assumption, because when I went to Croatia was part of the 6 countries that formed Yugoslavia. Right now they're doing very well. Macedonia is doing very well. Slovenia is doing very well. Slovakia is doing very well. So nothing says that we must be one country. Nothing. It's not sacrosanct that we must be one country. If in being one country you have all the killings you have in Jos, in Abuja, everywhere, what's the point being one country? Governance is about a foundation. A country that has been struggling with a foundation for 23 years cannot be a serious country. And there has to be a need for some speed. So the 10th Assembly must immediately address this problem of continuous talking about Nigeria. Remember what Bola Ige said about the survival of Nigeria, and it rings, because I was there that day, it still rings in my head, that in a situation of a political arrangement such as Nigeria's, the first question is, just like I have a wife, do I want to be married? Question number 1. So in Nigeria, do we want to be one? It's an assumption that we want to be. It's a terribly big and wrong assumption, because when I went to Croatia was part of the 6 countries that formed Yugoslavia. Right now they're doing very well. Macedonia is doing very well. Slovenia is doing very well. Slovakia is doing very well. So nothing says that we must be one country. Nothing. It's not sacrosanct that we must be one country. If in being one country you have all the killings you have in Jos, in Abuja, everywhere, what's the point being one country? So that's why, in looking at President Tinubu's governance program, I would remind him of a structural engineer who says, I can't build this house, I can't build Nigeria on the basis of a weak governance structure. It is the most important and fundamental process if you want a country to grow. So Nigeria's governance structure is very weak. The first is, any nation not at peace, and I always like to use the analogy of marriage. If, for instance, every day you get up and you and your wife are fighting, you can't have peace, and you cannot think about how to develop it. So the first thing we have to do in Nigeria is we have to organize peace. Because if we don't organize peace and security, you can't have good governance. So that is the step number 1. And I also made the point at the lecture that to continue to do the same thing with the same result is a mistake. We cannot resolve our problem by military solution. It will not happen. Quote me. If we continue on this path to deploy the military, deploy resources, and I don't even know how much has been spent by the military in acquiring armaments, we can't win. And the simple reason is you don't use military solutions for what is called irregular warfare. Where do you find these Boko Haram people or the bandits? So military option will not give Nigeria peace. Rather, what you need is to go back and say, before 1914, who were the owners of Nigeria? When you invite those who were owners of Nigeria, Benin Kingdom in the Guinness Book of Records has the largest man-made structure in the world. The wall they built is bigger than the Chinese wall. People don't know this. So that is an extremely old empire. And the man who sits on that throne, the Oba, controls a humongous amount of political power. Then you count the emirs, you count my own OB, yet you exclude them from the process of development. It's a huge error. It's a huge error. So this is what we need to do. We need to bring in all these guys. We need to bring in Ohaneze, Pandef, Arewa, Afenifere. These are the people that will shape Nigeria and give us political peace for development. So that's the first point on governance, on political governance. Then the second point on governance concerns the issue of what is the proper constitution that we need to have, because all the constitutions we've had have been imposed, right from the colonial to the military to the one that General Absalom imposed, and then the one the National Assembly is now conducting, you know, and it has taken them 23 years. I think that's a very long time for us to have a constitution that no one even believes and respects. So I looked up, I did some research, and I found late Professor Nwabeze's theory on the new constitution very interesting. He says that the National Assembly may not be, and I repeated it to President Akpabio, may not be aware of the nature of their powers. So I pointed out that the National Assembly has 3 legislative powers. The first is the National Assembly sitting as the House of Assembly of the federal government. The second is the National Assembly sitting as the House of Assembly of the FCT. And the third is the National Assembly sitting as the House of Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is a power they've never used. So Nwabeze suggests that they could use that to just establish a new constitution. All they need to do is to consult people. The constitution people don't understand. It is not as sacrosanct as it sounds, because it's an act that attaches the schedule. So Nwabeze suggests just delete the schedule, that's the current constitution, and add a new one. So all these discussions that have been taking place, write up something that is agreeable, send it around Nigeria, and once it's accepted, you go to the National Assembly, invoke the powers of Section 4, subsection 1, and then exchange. This happened when the Republican Constitution was established. The Parliament removed, by deletion, the Independence Constitution, and they put the Republican Constitution in exactly 1 day. Our National Assembly has spent 23 years. Because if you don't have the foundation, you can't go anywhere. So we don't have security, our political foundation is weak, our constitutional foundation is weak. 2 vital instruments for development. The judiciary has, in my 45 years, never been as low as this. Even the Supreme Court, John Okoro, castigated the appeal court for a terrible judgment where they removed virtually everybody in the plateau political system. So we can't grow if we have a weak judiciary. And therefore the only way to go is to break up this mafia in the Supreme Court. You have to break it up. It's like saying, you know what? No woman in Nigeria shall be entitled to political office. That's what they've done to us in the judiciary. No lawyer is entitled. It's only them. They create a mafia, block us out, and appoint themselves. Incestuous relationship. So they can't be their best. So I recommended to the National Assembly to understand the difference between administration of justice. That's why judges take note and write. Versus judicial administration. In respect of judicial administration, the National Assembly can intervene. I could see President Akpabio looking a bit puzzled when I was making that point. I said, are you sure we can do this? Of course, because already there are laws. There's the Federal High Court Act, which sets out how judges should come to the court, how they should be composed. The only thing the Constitution says is you must be 15 years to be a Supreme Court judge. Nothing else. So we need a law, a Supreme Court Appointment Act or whatever, to regulate the appointment of and the composition of the courts. In the case of some of the courts, it specifies that a person learned in Sharia law and customary law must be part of it. So why should somebody who's from the bar not be considered in the composition? To keep excluding the bar and the academics will result in a weak judicature. He's got off to a good start. He's kicked the engine of his aircraft. He's gone onto the wrong way, and the most difficult time for a pilot is when you're climbing out. So he's on the climb out. But remember that a pilot can always radio air traffic control that he wants to make an air return. So we're at a point where we cannot say the climb out will reach cruising height. An air return is a possibility. Unless all what I'm saying, people may say, well, I've been talking. But what I'm saying, as far as I'm concerned, is a very vital component of how Nigeria can reach cruising heights. Otherwise, the captain may be looking for the nearest airport to return to and land.
5 military men are killed, unjustifiably so. Then you go and pack 120 people, maybe 70 people will die in the process. But the criminal law in Nigeria, the principle is that rather than harm one innocent person for a crime that has been committed, let 100 criminals go free. But I know that the military has the intelligence, they have the capacity to identify people who may have done these things. And who says that crime is committed by those who live within the location of that crime? We have been witnesses to exhortation by some people, some of whom that may be identifiable, that Southeast should join in a crusade against the Tinubu's government.
Sorry, sir, are you alleging that you believe that the perpetrators of this crime are not from Abia State? Is that what you're saying?
I am not believing anything because I cannot say categorically, but reason, I'm a lawyer. Because if you come in and I'm cross-examining you, you have to establish first and foremost that you have evidence that those people you are chasing are the likely people that may have committed it. Today we have freedom of movement. Today we have criminals that commit something in Zamfara and you arrest them in Kaduna or Borno State and so on and so forth. Or commit criminal activities in Lagos and you can arrest them in Ebonyi State. So what is impossible? Because we are reasonable people and we are talking about how to find solution to this problem. You don't locate the localized crime. You have to spread your net. And it is the people that will also help you. There are some people who may have been witnesses to what may have happened. I don't know the nature of the location where this thing happened. But I believe perhaps there are some residents around that place that may be watching from their homes, as we do in this Lagos. Some people watch crime scenes from their distance, and some people film it. If you now begin to arrest everybody in the street, they will keep their facts because they might fall victim needlessly. So what I'm saying is that in trying to solve a problem, you must ventilate the environment. You do not get fixated. Otherwise, the problem will not be solved. It can be repeated and repeated and repeated. But I can say, without fear or favor, that it appears that criminals are looking for guns and ammunition. And that is why it becomes very easy that if you have 1 or 2 police orderlies, they go for those ones first. Not only to weaken you, their victim, their potential victim for kidnap, but also they seize their arms, even if they are arrested later. Because when you are trying to commit crime, your motive takes supreme over your caution. Only that at the end of the day, you now say it is the work of Satan. So I want a situation where the military should refrain from this type of attitude. We take revenge. Against who? If you have identified and arrested those people through military intelligence or any kind of intelligence for that matter, and you are sure they are the people, the law is very clear. Anybody who kills must be killed, except there is a justifiable reason under the law. And even from the level of conscience, every human life is sacrosanct. So it is not a situation where because military has the capacity to unleash violence anywhere, anytime, and anyhow. And we are in a civil governance. We should be looking at things from the legal perspective to be sure that we do not offend the sensibilities of the ordinary and helpless citizens. Let me just put this. There is a proverb that says, you as a native doctor, you normally have plenty of dried meat in your bag. Let the rat not go there every time to chop the meat. But the native doctor should also refrain from making every rat to lose their teeth just because he lost some pieces of meat. don't know whether you get my drift.
Well, we do, Dr. Naji, but this proverb is a bit heavy. I know that it is in the spirit of the Igbo land, you know, to to infuse proverbs.
Yes, what it's just a encapsulation and encapsulation of my principle of justice. That you go after those who committed the offense, and don't because an ethnic member or member of a family did something, if it is proven that it's even from that family, then you go after the entire family. That's not you can't, like a police sometimes will go and they don't find the husband who committed the offense, they will arrest the wife. The law is vehemently against such behavior. The criminal jurisprudence is against it, and our criminal law is against it, and the NCJ is also against it, even though it is still practiced one way or the other. But when you get to the court, it is shut down. So the point I'm making is that the military's effort to win the heart and soul and mind of Nigerian citizens, no matter where they are located, is to be painstaking in their investigation. The Okwama something is still very fresh. Some people have been giving account of their experiences at home. As unfortunate as it was that people died, they are all Nigerians, so there's no doubt about that. Even the fact that they were military and they are military and all that does not detract from the fact that they are Nigerians. Children of somebody, father, relations and so on, with flesh and blood. So, but my contention here is that the military as well as our security agents should try to make it possible that they don't become easy prey. Because those who are after them are looking, there are many people who will be interested in collecting their gun. And the young men who are marauding everywhere, taking drugs and so on, the effort of the state will amount to nothing in curbing drugs when it is possible for them to take that drug and have access to something they can steal to cause more mayhem.
All right, Dr. Naji. I mean, that's the explanation is expansive enough. But I would like you to dimension this, rather specifically along the thoughts expressed by the President General of the Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Chief Iwuanyanwu, who basically expressed exasperation at what is happening in Igbo land. And I'm asking you, what is your understanding of what is happening in Igbo land beyond a few aggrieved young men who are causing mayhem? Do you have a full understanding of what they are revolting against? Okay, yes, there was a Biafra Day celebration, but why ask people to stay at home? Why sit at home? Why deny people, young lads, from going for their exams? Another one is slated for, I believe, September 29th. We do not know what will happen by that time. So my question to you, sir, first is this just about an overlay of security challenges that we're having in Nigeria, or is it about the fact that the leaders in Igbo land need to call their war to order? And secondly, if I can put it in another perspective, do you think that the compatriots in Igbo land would be eager to stay in the brotherhood of this sovereign fatherland? In other words, will our compatriots in Igbo land, your people, our people, be willing to sing Nigeria We Hail Thee in the manner that things are going on now? Is that what we are saying, that people are agitating against the status quo?
Steve, the problem is not with the Igbo people, the ordinary Igbo people. It's with the politicians everywhere. The politicians are like Satans. Nigerian politicians, most of them are like Satans. The crime that they did not cause does not happen. And even the few that they may not have initiated, when they happen, they defend it, appropriate it, and consolidate it, and nothing will happen. So that impunity gives so much courage to even ordinary people that will not have thought of doing things, that are untoward. Now, talking about the Igbo situation specifically, I had occasion on this year's station, sometime when there was, I think, a bomb or something in the Imo State, very close to the government house. And the Inspector General of Police of that time, I can't remember his name, whether it's Garba, I can't remember his name now, just that same morning said that it was IPOB. And I was saying, as much as nobody is insisting whether he was right or not, he did not seem to have given opportunity for those who were on ground to investigate and pass. Because anytime you see a dog with a bone on its neck, it may not have been the dog that hung it there. It may not. And somebody can also hang bone on the neck of a dog to call it a bad name. That is also not to deny that some youths may not be so misguided to do things that are untoward, like any other criminal set of youths anywhere in the world. I am not here to defend anybody. If you grab anybody, deal with the person decisively. Crime has no ethnicity. The damage has no ethnicity. The damage is universal. Now, when you talk about whether the situation in the Southeast, I also had occasion to talk about the Southeast was becoming a bazaar. And everybody was coming in. Since Southeast was free from maybe the headsmen and all that violence, they needed to give Southeast some share. Even if it was being deprived under that particular administration, some of the access to power and access to good governance, they need to partake of the share of violence. That was what happened in those days. But I'm not saying that is a situation that we can easily replicate, because the last president had a personal encounter with Nnamdi Kanu on a personal level, where he felt insulted personally and all that and all that. That's no longer the situation with Tinubu. So Tinubu should also listen to some of the exhortations that he should help the Southeast, because whenever you have a shanty, criminals will go and hide under its canopy. The other day, some environmental staff in Lagos went under the Ikoyi Bridge and was able to flush the sanctuary of some of the criminal elements in some parts of Lagos. It is the same thing when you talk about IPOB. People use IPOB as a franchise, whether rightly or wrongly, even whether they are Igbos or not. The important thing is that IPOB, having been banned, is an outlaw. And therefore, when you have an outlaw operating, it cannot be lawful. So the point we are making is that the duty of security agents is to investigate these things. They should investigate. But is it not very strange, Steve, that whenever there is a threat from individuals or such organizations that they were going to do this, people should sit at home? Do you think that sitting at home is the best thing for people, especially when their own children education was being jeopardized? The people are helpless. They are helpless. So it is the state that should help them. And those who should be used to help them are those who have the means of violence to counter whatever violence. Because the sit-at-home order is at the threat of violence if you come out. And we have seen what has happened. And even sometimes you begin to wonder, could an Igbo man have the courage, the effrontery and temerity of character to unleash such a pain on a fellow Igbo helpless citizen, even of an older age, just because the person came out on that very day to fend for his family? So these are questions, and nobody can unravel those questions except the intelligence community. Many of the intelligence communities we have in different locations appear to be working, but there should not be some disparate application of intelligence in different locations when you have the same challenge. The same challenge should be met with the same seriousness. Okay? So the Igbo land, I believe, the politicians who seem to be flourishing in Igbo land are those who are enjoying certain leverages outside Igbo land. If you look at that, I will leave it at that. Yeah, because I'm an elder. So I don't say everything. Okay? When I tell you that you should not go to the stream, you should know that they either may be masquerade or ghost. And you refrain from doing so.
Thank you, Dr. Naji. It's almost sounding like what my mom would say, what an adult can see sitting down, even a child will not see, even if...
Exactly. Even if you climb the Iroko tree.
They won't see it. Well, you've already mentioned some of these leaders, and I want to talk about, as we begin to wrap up, political accountability on the backdrop of dialogue and engagement. Do you think that the Southeast leaders, be it traditional leaders, and even the governors of the Southeastern states have been sufficiently accountable and proactive in addressing the underlying issues that continue to fuel IPOB's agitation? As a former governorship candidate yourself, how would you advise these current political leaders of handling such a complex issue? Talking about the specific strategies that they can adopt to restore peace and stability in the region while addressing the demands of IPOB.
I don't think it is just necessary to particularize this thing to IPOB. IPOB is just a group of people. Everybody in Igbo land does not belong to this IPOB, something we are talking about. Governance is for the people, and it does not have to require an unnecessary agitation by anybody for it to be given to the people freely if one is actually representing the people. The problem in Igbo land now is that the wrong people are in power. Not in every state, though, or not in every facet, though, but predominantly, the wrong people are in power. And like I alluded before, that when you are listening to music played in the bush, you don't go sit in the city and drink coffee. You must be nearer the bush, where you'll be listening to the music very well. So the point we are making is that the Igbo people are like captives. And we require the federal government, the security agencies, to help our people. To help our people. And if you don't take steps to unleash the power of the Igbo people, that aspect of their contribution to national development will be lost. And Nigeria will be worse for it. You may not know what your left hand is doing, even when you are a right-handed person, until when we saw in one of the boxing situation, the right hand couldn't deliver, and the wife of the boxer told him, remember your left hand. And when he delivered it, the other guy collapsed. And that was the end of the match. So the point we are making is that all hands must be on deck. We have, Steve had just made a tactical allusion to some of the lyrics in the new old national anthem. Everybody needs to be, you say, we hail thee when you have done well. The other one was an exhortation that people should arise and do something. Let us still have at the back of our mind the exhortation of the other one, so that we can hope to be able to ingratiate ourselves in the new one. So the point we are making here is that when the governors of the Southeast feel that the challenges, they need to solve it, they will come together. It is beyond political parties, and yet it was engendered and sustained by politics, whether local or induced. That is my point. And they know what they can do, but who will bail the cat? We also need a stronger Ohanese. Ohanese must be seen. Let me tell you, under Joe Nwodo, Ohanese was more vibrant. And if your leadership of a cultural organization is not as vibrant and strong and respectable by its people, nobody outside will respect you. That is not to say that the current executive is not trying, but that is what they can do, because age is no longer on the side of the leadership. You need vibrant leadership, highly knowledgeable, capacity to deliver, and patriotism and the zeal to go through the hawks. Because if you, the owner of a basket, condemn it, then your neighbor will use it to pour trash. That is where I will just put it.